Hi everyone! In today's video we will be painting with watercolors. I apologize that I don't have a proper introduction or an outro to this video. I've been a little bit under the weather, so I will just be doing voiceover. So let's get our coffee ready, and the purpose of this video is to test out the ARCHES or ARCHES watercolor paper pad in 140 pounds rough grain. I like working with the pads or blocks, you would call them, rather than the paper pads, just because I work with so much water that when it's in a block it allows me to put lots of water without warping. So initial thought, here's where I panicked. I didn't see this little detail that you guys are seeing right here. In all fairness, I couldn't see that from my view, so I was panicking. I was actually thinking that this was a mistake and that my pad was all black sheets of paper. And it was very smooth, so I was actually considering at this point that I was going to have to return it. And while I rambled all about it, being that was not what I had ordered, that it was supposed to have texture, kind of like this Stonehenge watercolor paper, I'm sorry. And so I was rambling about until I rewatched the video. Then I rewatched the video, I saw that little detail of that little window of the white paper peeking through. So I grabbed my palette knife and I went ahead and removed the first, or that black sheet of paper, and sure enough, to my surprise, it was the actual white watercolor paper and the rough grain right underneath. And as you can see, it has a lot of texture. You'll see it actually throughout the process. It picks up on camera very well, and it's also very thick. So now I start with my sketch, and since I'm testing out this paper for the first time, I'm planning on keeping this very simple. I will be using my Winsor & Newton watercolors, one Daniel Smith Cascade Green watercolor, and a very limited palette. I start by getting my cerulean blue, my Winsor lemon yellow, and mixing my own magenta color. The reason why I get my paints ready on my palette is because I'm trying to do a gradients for this piece, and I'm going to try to avoid cauliflowers, meaning that the wash has to be very wet for the paints to merge into each other without creating that cauliflower effect. So having your paints handy, activated, and ready to go without having to mix too much in between gives you a bit of an advantage time-wise, so your wash doesn't dry on you and you can go ahead and gradient those colors. just love adding in these details. Working with this paper has inspired me to create more pieces with a lot more detail, a lot more layering. I've been thinking of maybe really nice portraits that would work wonders, because from what I can see, you can layer on top of the dried up paint and it just works beautifully. So right here is where another very pleasant surprise happened. This Daniel Smith watercolor paint is one of my new paints. I had never used it before, so this is the first time I use it. And to my surprise, first of all, it's a beautiful color. It's in between blue and turquoise. It's a beautiful color. But when it dries, that's the biggest surprise. It dries with other pigments of gold in between, so it really gives that impression of water, and the way the water glistens with the sun is just gorgeous. It's beautiful. So I just left it at that to give the impression of it being the sea on the background. And she looks very much like a mermaid now. So I'm not mad at that. I really love that effect. So right here, I just go in with my clean brush and clean water, and I start smoothing out those edges for the shadows on her face, just so it has a very subtle transition from the shadow to the highlight of the contour of her face. And once again, this paper is just working beautifully for that. I can do some lifting and it does it beautifully too. It's just gorgeous. It's a really nice paper to work with, and I can see why most people just rave about it. I should also mention that this piece right here is in continuation of my Becoming One watercolor series that I've been doing since 2022. And well, I believe this is very much self-explanatory with the title of the series. So there you go, guys. That is the finished piece. I hope you really liked this video. I hope you found some value. If you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you have any ideas or suggestions or any questions, just go ahead and leave them down in the comments below. And I really hope to see you here for the next one. Stay creative, my friends, and have a beautiful day.